Hello, good evening everybody and welcome to Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Darko Dimitrijevic and I am a chess FIDE master. Tonight you will see the movie about blindfold chess. Thank you very much and welcome again. As you can see, this is a movie about blindfold chess, basic principles. My name is Darko Dimitrijevic and I am a chess FIDE master. First I will show you a little history or overview about one of the greatest names in the last 120 years, 150 years who play blindfold chess. Here we see François-André Danican-Philidor. Interesting story about his playing is that on 1783, when he was 57 years old, he played against 3 opponents. And he played several times, about 2, 3, 4 opponents in the same time. And actually when he was the 67, he played 2 games. And he won both games. Now here we see the statement from the year 1793, when he was 67 years old and he won both games. Here we can see Alistair Crowley. It's the rumors about him that he has capacity to play the blindfold chess with the 8 opponents at the same time, but unfortunately I couldn't find in any source actual information about results. And he was the British occultist, writer and philosopher, and mystic as well. And the rumors that he was actually member of some of the Masonic Lodge in his lifetime. Here we see Paul Morphy, one of the most brilliant chess player in history. And in 1858 he played against 8 opponents. With the score he won 6 and he drew 2, and looks like very good performance, definitely. Also I want to mention here that when you see the year of performance, it's usually correct. What I believe it's 1858. And on some occasion it's very hard to find when some of the players perform the blindfold simultaneous, and later on I will explain how I calculate that. Here we see Louis Poulsen. The year when he played is unknown, but he played several times against 10 opponents, and score is unknown as well. And he was a German chess player. And Poulsen's performance was actually one of the best in the history of the blindfold chess, even if he didn't play with a lot of opponents, because it's recorded that he played without any major errors. Now we come to the Harry Nelson Pillsbury. On the 1902, he played on the 21 and 22 boards in the same time. And his best performance was actually when he played on the 21. He won 3, he drew 11 games and he lost 7. For the second occasion, when he played against 22 opponents, the result is unknown. Pillsbury is born in Somerville, Massachusetts, and later on in his life he moved to New York City and then Philadelphia. Unfortunately, he died very young, at the age of 34. And besides playing the chess, he was the one of the top checkers player in the country. It's interesting to say that he would give them simultaneous exhibition playing 10 chess players and 10 checkers players while playing whist at the same time. The 1916 Alexander Alekhin play against 5 opponents. Score is unknown, but so far what I recall, he played in a hospital against hospital patients. Then again Alexander Alekhin, the year 1925, he played against 28 opponents. He won 22, he drew 3 games and he lost 3 games. And this is, I believe, one of his best performances. Richard Reti, on 1925, he played against 29 opponents, beating Alekhin for 1 game, and at that point this was the world record, of course by the number of opponents, and he won 21, he drew 6 and he lost 2 games. And as we can see, in 1933, the real war between Alekhin and Reti starts, and he played against 32 opponents. He won 19, he drew 9 and he lost 4. And that performance was held in Chicago. But the rumor about this performance is that actually Alekhin made a lot of mistakes, and basically it's hard to believe that we can keep that as a world record. But at that time, by the number of opponents, 32 was definitely world records. Miguel Najdorf, on the 1943, he played against 40 opponents, and his score was he won 36, drew 1 and lost 3. He was born in Warsaw, in Poland, in 1910, and he was Polish-born Argentine chess grandmaster. Miguel Najdorf was also a well-respected chess writer. As we can see, I sort the players not by the year when they are born, but I sort by the year when they play blindfold chess simultaneous. Now it's coming year 1947. It's the Miguel Najdorf again. And he played against 45 opponents, he won 39, drew 4 and he lost 2. In the year 1960, Janos Flesch played against 52 opponents, he won 31 games, he drew 3 and he lost 18. However, this record attempt has been somewhat suspicious by the fact that Flesch was permitted to verbally recount the score of the games in progress. By the title, Janos Flesch was international master of chess, and he was born in Hungary. And now great George Koltanovsky. On 1960 he played against 56 opponents, he won 50, he drew 0 and he lost 6 games. And today this performance is still actually the world record by the numbers of opponents. This event was held in San Francisco on December 1960, and event lasted 9. And now we came to the Garry Kimovich Kasparov, one of the best players in the history of the chess. And later I will explain to you what means Club of the 3 member. It's around the year 1987. I put tilde sign because I'm not sure when the performance was held. Maybe 1985, 1986, 1987 or 1988, I'm not quite sure. But what I know, the movie is made and he played against 10 opponents in the same time. But what he played handicap, random simultaneous, which means that he played against 10 opponents and each of the opponents was shared with 1 helper. The purpose of the helper is to bring the score sheet or last move to Kasparov to review, and then Kasparov will write the answer to the helper. and helper will run back to the chessboard, making Kasparov's move, and press the clock. That's the meaning of the word handicap. Handicaps mean that you are playing with the chess clock, which is tremendously and much tougher to play than a regular blindfold simultaneous, because regular the word regular, it means you play without clock. Handicaps mean you are playing with the clock. It means one or more. But how he played, each of the opponents has a clock, which means Kasparov was forced to remember 20 different times, because chess clock, as we know, has two clocks inside, your and opponents. And handicap random simultaneously, it's definitely the toughest way of playing the blindfold chess. In my practice, I used to play a lot, but never on a 10. I used to play 4, 5 and 6 handicap random simultaneous. I need to explain what's mean word random. Now we learn what's mean word handicap. Handicap is when you play blindfold chess involving the chess clock, which obviously you need to remember as well. It means if you have a lot less, if you have better position but not time, this means you will lose on the time. That is actually addition to additional headaches. Actually, that you, beside the perfect memorization of what's going on a chessboard, you must memorize the time as well. The little problem with this performance for me, it's not known that he exchanged between the helpers only last move, or he recalled the score, which make little difference. But anyway, the most important things that needs to be remembered, that handicap random simultaneously is the most difficult actually activity of the human brains known so far to me. Word random, I need to explain second one, random. Randoms mean that at one point Kasparov needs to think in the same time about 10 position, which means if all 10 opponents make the moves, that means all 10 guys running to the Kasparov, giving him the 10 moves in the same time. And that kind of performance should be performed in a perfect and absolute silence, because until he thinks, the runner or helper, I call the runner, that's the funny things, because guy needs to run between opponents and Kasparov, bringing the move. That type of performance must be run by the exchanging of the moves. It's impossible that people, telling him what was played, because that's going to be an unbelievable mess. Because as I mentioned, it's possible that 5 people make move in the same time, and sounds very messy if 5 people will tell the move loudly in the same time. This is the reason that in handicap random simultaneous we use the helpers runners who exchange the moves on the paper, hopefully I believe last move, between performer, which was Kasparov, and opponents. Also Kasparov ratings achievements including being rated world number 1 according to ELO rating almost continuously from 1986 until his retirement in 2005, and holding the all-time highest rating of 2,851. He also holds records for consecutive tournaments victory and chess Oscars. As I promised, I need to explain what's mean club of the 3 members, and I would like to make clear who is actually who in a real chess. People are often confused, telling the story that this guy is the best, this guy is the best, I believe this player is the best, this is all the joke. they don't know what's going on. It's definitely for everybody who play chess a lot and understand history a lot, it's undoubtedly that those three persons are definitely club of three, and there is no other fourth guy who can join them by any mean. And in 1972, Robert James Bobby Fischer, as the picture on our left, play the match of the century against Spassky, and he won. And it's believed that he is the most talented player all the time in the history of the chess. And the power that he demonstrated in 1972 gives me belief that there is no player who play stronger than Robert James Bobby Fischer in 1972. That means if with this perspective we can join anybody else to play in 1972 against Fischer, nobody have any chance. And everybody will lose with catastrophic results. The second member of the club of three is Anatoly Evgenievich Karpov. He is probably the most talented players all the time, and if I can shortly explain something about him, besides that he has, I believe, the biggest number of the victory on the tournaments, and secondly, he has the biggest number of the victory on the super tournaments. That the simplest thing to explain why he is member of the three, that basically he is the person who understands chess more than anybody else. Maybe he didn't reach the point of the level of Fischer, 1972. But 1975, when he's supposed to play a match against Bobby, it's hard to say to me who will win, because his power was unbelievable. On 1975, Anatoly Karpov was definitely the best player in the world. And since 1990, actually Anatoly Karpov, 15 years, he dominates completely in the chess world. And before I talk a little bit about Garry Kasparov, I already said something about him, but it's interesting thing how we can compare all these three guys. My last point would be Kasparov is the most educated chess player in the history of the chess, it's no doubt. Anatoly Karpov is the person who understands chess more than anybody else. And Robert Fischer is definitely the guy who played the strongest, let's put it this way, the strongest tournament and match player all the time. And I hope that nobody of the world leading players today will not be offended what I just said. But scientifically, it's no doubt there is no fourth person that can join the club of these three guys. As I mentioned earlier, I gave the subtitle to this movie Basic Principles, and now I will go in a Blindfold chess dictionary and explain what each word means. And the first word is the blindfold. Now I will show you a little movie about 2 or 3 minutes which best illustrate what's mean word blindfold chess. Here on this little movie we see the regular blindfold, regular continuous blindfold chess simultaneous. And in front of us is Veselin Topalov. He is one of the 2 or 3 best chess player, active best chess player today in the world, undoubtedly. And you really see what's mean blindfold. Blindfold really mean blindfold. And the referee cover his eyes. This simultaneous exhibition was held on Bilbao 2006 in Spain.
Bueno, pues primero empieza jugando las blancas. Entonces el señor alcalde, Juan Manuel y señor diputado general, donde ustedes quieran.
As you can see on the back of the players are helpers, people who help and inform verbally Topalov what is the move that opponents did. And then Topalov is thinking and he tells the move.
Tablero 1, caballo F3.
Here he performs continuous blindfold chess, simultaneous. Continuous, it's mean he's making move on the table number 1, and then everything's moved to second. Table number 2, and opponents makes the move on number 2. Topalov thinks and tell the moves, and then they switch to the table number 3. Helper tell Topalov which move opponents play last. Topalov thinks and then respond, and helper makes the moves. Here we see 3 or more helpers, but usually 1 is enough, even for the events of 10-20 opponents.
Tablero 1, alfil E3.
Caballo E5.
Caballo D5. Tablero 2 se rinde.
Puedo ofrecer tablas ahí. La veo difícil para ganar.
¿Ofreces tablas en el primer tablero?
Sí.
¿Ofreces tablas, no?
Sí.
Topalov ofrece tablas en el tablero número 1.
Basically, I believe now everybody have impression what's word blindfold mean, and that's 2-3 minutes movie. It's enough to understand. What we just saw on this movie as visual appearance, everything looks very fine. Visual effect is perfect. Performer, in this case was Topalov, he covered his eyes and he played against 3 opponents in the same time. That's what we call blindfold chess. What means simultaneously, because he played against 3 opponents in the same time. And the correct name of this performance is regular. Regulars mean no chess clock involved. We didn't see any clock, chess clock on the tables. Regular. Continuous. Continuous mean he's making move from the table number 1, then he moves to table number 2, then table number 3. When he makes the move on the table number 3, he moves back to table number 1. And it's always going in the same cycle. That means continuous. Before, if you remember, I mentioned Kasparov, who play a random. The randoms mean that at each point, every player has right to tell you move, which could be extremely confusing. Now we saw what's mean continuous. Continuous mean 1, 2, 3. If you play on 10 boards, you play 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you make move on it. When you make move on the 10th or last boards, you move on the boards number 1. And it's going all the way until end of the performance. if one game is finished or two games are finished, doesn't matter, let's say game number 5 and 6, you won. What's going on is going normally continues playing board number 1, 2, 3, 4, then you can, the 5 and 6 are done and you jump to the number 7 and so on and so on. I need to mention that before all these players that I show to you, all great blindfold chess performers in the last 150 years, unfortunately what we know about details, we only know the year. Sometimes we even don't know the years. We know number of opponents, and we sometimes know the results. And unfortunately, this is only what we can find today in the literature or the movies or the web presentation. And this is one of the reasons that I decided to make this movie, to jump to the level to talk about performance. This means basically everybody can play in blindfold. But the question, how you play blindfold and how you calculate performance. The word performance is extremely important. And absolutely word performance doesn't exist in the dictionary of the blindfold chess. And today I will continue a little bit about that. And now I will show you a little movie what's performance mean. As you know, the world recorder on 100 meter is usually one person. Everything what we are doing in our life carry certain performance level. And as we know, today in the world is around 6.5 billion people. And as we know, everybody can run 100 meters. But it's only one guy, Asaf Powell, who can run 9 seconds and 9.74 seconds. That is performance. Asaf Powell, world recorder on 100 meter, 9.74 seconds.
Ja, der kan det gå i kjempestart av Paul, som kommer veldig godt ut og får seg en veldig fin løping. Nå presser Paul veldig hardt. Han oppnår en fantastisk del.
Damn, what we just saw, that was performance. As I mentioned earlier, there's plenty of people in the world, but only one is running 9.74 seconds. The problem with the blindfold chess is more complex, because the first should be set up some certain rules how to play blindfold chess. And when the two performers, the person who performed blindfold chess, make the same results, then we come to the timing, like for 100 meters, when time is involved. It's much more complicated in a blindfold chess than run 100 meters. Which means a set of the rules must be set up. How we play against multiple opponents, and how we actually count against how many opponents we actually play. Because if we read that somebody play against 50 opponents, it's a lot of details must be said what mean physically play against 50 opponents and real performance. We don't know how long each game lasts. 5 moves, 10 moves. We absolutely don't know how many mistakes performer did. We don't know how many miscalculation performers did. A recalculation of the score sheet. Unfortunately, on the beginning, I only show about 10 or 15 guys from the history, but there are thousands of players who play blindfold chess. And Now I will explain a little bit about the rules that I'm playing. What my rules, how I play blindfold chess. Thank you. Personally, I played more than 1,000 games so far blindfolded, and I had exactly 44 performances. In this 44 performance, I play from 4 boards to up to 20 boards. About 60–70% are actually matches. I mean, I play a match against other person on 10 boards, or different number of the boards, but that's we called blindfold match. Sometimes I play against one player who also play blindfolded. We also call that blindfolded. Those 2 persons play, let's say, 4 games in the same time, blindfolded. My personal record is set up in 1982, 2 times during my military service in my country, and during 1 year period I played 8 boards, then 20 boards, and after half a year I played 12 boards and 20 boards again, which means 1982 actually I keep my personal records 2 times on the 20 boards. Now I will explain to you on which details you must pay big attention every time when you read about blindfold chess, because it's a lot of trick involved in definition when you read the text. Well, we see here the problem number 1, or trick number 1. It says performer played blindfold against 20 opponents in the same time simultaneously. Can you somebody explain to me what this means? Actually, information doesn't say absolutely anything. Which means you can play only on 1 board against 20 people, or 5 boards against 20 people, or you can play even on 100 boards against 20 opponents. Which means each of opponents has right to play on 5 boards at the same time. And as the plain of information that we can find in the literature, in the books or the web today, it's written like on this way, and unfortunately we don't know who they are, who the opponents are. In respect with this, I always take basic information about my opponents, who they are, what they are doing, and the most important, I treat them as a human being. And I always have, after performance, contact with these people. Problem in that historical overview that I mentioned earlier is that we absolutely don't know nothing about absolutely anything about opponents. Who they are, if they are kind of no-nos, which means people from the street, brought suddenly to play chess, and after 5–6 moves they decide to go home, and you claim as a victory. And usually how I play, I always play against active players. No professional players, of course, they will beat me easily. But young kids or veterans, whatever, who play on a solid level. Well, trick number 2 is very nasty. And as you can see, this is score sheet. The biggest problem is that we absolutely don't know, and this is very sad, that if people who play blindfold chess, if they keep score sheet or not. And that's create big difference. Let's put it this way. If somebody will give me right to keep the score sheets, which means write the move of my opponents, I will easily be world recorder. And I will play in a very short time. And I believe that with the 60 opponents, I will finish in much less than 6 hours. Technically, the people who don't understand about chess, they don't understand that this is very important. Chess professionals, they understand. We understood. When we write the moves on the papers, and we have right to check the score sheets, it's very easily to play, and much faster we can play on that way. And also, basically, the problem, we don't need to memorize anything. Because anyway, when we read the books, we can imagine, when we read through the one score sheet, what's position on the table. It means, but the people who play blindfold chess and use the score sheet, and telling us, and they inform others that they perform on a 20 boards or more, and had right to keep score sheet. Practically, they only play one game. And everything turned actually to garbage. With everybody who has right to have contact with the score sheet and telling us that play against a lot of players, practically they play only one game. And this is the nastiest trick, and trick number 2. It means you must be very, very careful if you have chance to attend blindfold chess simultaneously, to pay more attention on performer, the guy who play blindfolded, not on people on the other side. Here we are seeing the trick number 3, which I call square or squares 4x4. It's tremendously important. As we know, the chessboard consists of 64 squares, and in imaginary calculation, chessboard is not one picture. Unfortunately, chessboard is 64 pictures. And the game starts with the white pieces and black pieces. It's the 16, black is 16. 16 white, 16 black is 32 images. And we have additional 64 images, which turn to the 96 images. Which means when players start to play blindfold game, he starts to memorize 96 images. My last performance was in New York in this summer, my 44th performance, and I play against 10 players, which means beginning of memorization start with memorization of 960 objects. And this is the most painful part of the blindfold simultaneous, because in a range of 45 minutes or 1 hour, all 960 must be memorized very well. Why I put the trick number 3 as a square 4x4? The main reason that I never play with covering my eyes. The problem is that I play high volume of the number, 5, 10, 12, usually between 10 and 12, and that simultaneous exhibition takes about between 5 and 7 hours. It's very painful to have anything actually on your eyes, start to be itchy. But my experience is telling me that if I have chance to see any objects which is 4x4, it's giving me very good help for calculation, to perform calculation, because 4x4 is actually 1/4 of the board, and somehow I can pan that windows through all the rest of the board and helping me with calculation. 3x3 it's not useful, can't help much, but 4x4 square is the big help for performer. It means guy who play simultaneously, blindfolded. And that we come to the rules, several rules which must be accomplished to avoid trick number 3. I'm sorry. What we can see, you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 drawers in office where I'm working. And if I as a performer have the right to see that, I can slightly put some line of the papers or transparent tape that nobody needs to see, but I see. And here, on the middle of the drawer, I put down another thing. Which means if I put one here, and it's same on another side of these drawers. Practically, I have 4 by 5 square, which is enough for me to perform a much better calculation and avoid the mistakes during performance. Which means it's important that person who play, that people who are audience actually have access to see with which objects, what is around the person who perform blindfold chess simultaneous. And it's very interesting, now we are looking fax machine. And somebody will think that I'm crazy what I want to say. No. It's the same analogy like drawers, file drawers I show last minutes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 20 dots, which can be very useful for me when I perform, to concentrate myself to make moves. Imagine that these dots are actually squares. Let's be very careful. Performer doesn't have right during performance to see something like this. And now look at this, it's the ceilings. Looks nice, but it still is squared. And it's the same problem like 2 I explained before. Performer shouldn't have any right to see any type of the object that looks like 4 by 4 or bigger. Now look at that. This is the Metro Boston issue for the weekend November 16 to 18, 2007. And another trick. Now we are moving to the little objects. Before I show you the big one. Now be sure that performer doesn't have right to see any crossword. That is more than 8 by 8. And definitely you need to understand that if performer has right to see exactly the same crossword like you, it's the same like he keep the chessboard in front of him. The same apply, believe or not, for famous Sudoku. It's obviously an object bigger than chessboard. It's 9 by 9. And it's the same as you will allow the performer to keep chessboard in front of him. Pay attention if you have chance. Once again, go personally to watch Blindfold chess exhibition to be sure that you have capacity to perform, actually to see what's going on and where is performer. It's not enough that he's in another room. It doesn't mean that he play blindfolded. Now you can pay attention on this cute trick number 4. Something regarding the or relating to the symbols. For example, I put my national flag. This is flag of Republic of Croatia. And if I perform as blindfold chess simultaneous and somebody put my national flag next to me, I like that very much. And also I like that very much because of the square 4 by 4. That helped me a lot for the much faster calculation or to have highest performance on a number of the boards. Which means, let's put it this way, put in all the mathematics. If I play blindfold without my national flag on the 10 boards without any mistakes, on which we will come soon. That means if I have right to play 10 boards with my national flags, I can play easily by 15 or 16 boards with the same performance level. This means probably it's between 30 and 50, depends how you feel. That picture with 4x4 or bigger, it's helping between 30 and 50% of performance level. Let's finish for now about the tricks that could be very useful for performance, and unfortunately the audience absolutely didn't know nothing until I didn't post that on the web as a movie. Let me show you now a little built-in which I made after my 43rd performance. I play against 5 students of the St. Bernard School. On the first table was Christopher Vazan, 3rd grader. On the second table was Andrew Zhu, 2nd grader. Third table was Gardner Crary, 3rd grader. On the fourth table was John Sullivan, 3rd grader. And fifth table, Grenville Kaynor, 3rd grader. Event was held on November 22nd, 2006 in Park Avenue, New York, New York. Second page of built-in which indicate information about participants or opponents. As you can see, as much as possible I am taking care about people I am playing against. And the referee was my friend and chess instructor Branislav Francuski, who lives in New York for more than 20 years and teaching kids the chess around the New York area and Quincy and Brooklyn as well. I would like to pass quickly through this page, which is actually most important page, about events details and rules, and I will read what is written on this page because it represents the crucial rules how blindfold chess. Now let's read quickly calculation data. They're all important information about performance. Playing time from 2 o'clock to 4:10 p.m. It means I play against 5 opponents, 2 hours and 10 minutes. Total moves that are played is 88. Total board position memorization 176, which means is actually double number of 88. And that number indicates how many picture I memorized during this performance. Average playing time per half move 44.3 seconds. Half move is, as we know, half move. If white play, that's half move. When black play is half move as well, and that's create actually one move. One move is when both players make the moves. Ending number of the pieces on the boards 118. Starting number of the pieces on the board 160. That's also important number during calculation of performance to indicate difficulties of the playing. Because, let's put it this way, if the ending number of the pieces on boards are, let's say, 140, that means my memorization could even fail. Because it's easier for us, for performance, when we play, that we exchange the pieces as fast as possible. Average decreasing number of pieces per move is 0.48. I will not go now in explaining what does this mean. That explanation will go in advance representation or presentation, my second movie about blindfold chess. Thank you, and I'm apologizing. Here we can see errors, error correction. That's interesting things. I made during exhibition one mistake, and it's happened on second board when I said after 11 move knights takes d5 or skakač, which is word on my language, but anyway in English knights takes d5, which was a mistake. and the referee told me that impossible move. And one of the rules, I didn't ask referee for recalculation of the score sheet, which is bad habit. I continued to play without asking where is each piece on the board, and I played 11 move pawn e3. And also because the kids are very young, and at some certain point they lose, they start to talk a little louder. It was miscommunication between me as a performer and the referee, which was a Branislav. And I told in one point in the 14 move queen h4, but somehow, because it was too noisy, he didn't hear word queen. He just moved my pawn on h4, but likely I won that game. Now I will quickly read the rules for regular continuous blindfold chess simultaneous. As a three-way of rules. One apply for performer, it's me. Second set of rules are participant obligation, and third set of rules are referee obligation. I will start with performer obligations. Number one, no rights to keep or see score sheet of any game or see the chessboard at any time. 2. No right to see any photo picture of object who is in a shape 4x4 square or larger. 3. Not allowed comments or scoring any position with referee or participants. 4. If performers draws, resign game, or is checkmate under the 15 moves, such board is taken out of counting. Let me explain that quickly. If I call 10 people and I play against 10 people, 10 persons, and if somebody checkmate me in a 12 moves, 13, below 15, I take that board out of counting completely. Which means final counting, even if I didn't make mistake, will be 9, will not be 10. I think that's understandable. Because the reason for that, to avoid the many jokes, tremendously many jokes, about people who perform high volume, high boards level, and call the friends, and after 10 moves they just draw and the guys went home. No. I don't count on such a way. That's the fraud. That's the problem. That's one of the biggest problem, that blindfold chess will never had actually world record, because we absolutely don't know if somebody called 10-20 guys from the street, ask them to sit, and somebody count the big number of the people, and then they just after 5 to 6 moves they make draw and they went home. And after that we can read that he play against these people. No. One of the rules, it's my rules, that I don't have a right to offer a draw below move 30. Which means that if you say that I play against 10 players, each game that finish draw should be more than 30 moves. Which means on each of these 10 games you must perform something. Or don't tell that you play against 10 games in the same time. I think this is very easy to understand. 5. 1 miscalculation per 5 boards allowed. Example. In this performance that I showed before, I made 1 mistake, but I played against 5 people, which means I'm allowed to make 1 mistake on each of the 5 boards. If, let's say, after that I make mistake again, I lose that game immediately. That's rules number 1. Rules number 2, that game, that board is taken out of counting, which means I finish this exhibition with the 5 wins. I won all 5 games. But in the case that after first mistake I did second, I will lose that board immediately and I will count as a number 4, no 5. That's the rules under which I'm playing the blindfold chess. 6. Explaining that 2 miscalculations at any time in the same game, such board is taken out of counting and the game is scored as lost. 7. Last game, remaining game, when everybody finish except one opponent, last game will be played with the clock set up 5 minutes for participant and 10 minutes for performer with sudden death rules. Now we are coming to participant obligations. Number 1. No rights to touch pieces on board while on the move. Write score sheet of each game. That's optional. Touch move rules apply when referee is before participants. 4. Castling must be initiated but moving the king first. 5. Participants who touches a performer piece must to capture if it's possible. 6. Participant signals intend to adjust pieces by saying je double or I adjust. 7. 30 seconds rules. That's for me very important. When the referee stands before participants, he or she has 15 to 30 seconds times to make the move. This is very important because we don't want to play forever. If participants are sometimes very lazy, I can play 5 boards simultaneous even for 5 hours, which doesn't make sense. They are moving much slower. This is the reason that one of my rules, when my helper or referee stand in front of before the participants who is on a move, he must move, actually make move immediately, 15-30 seconds. No reason for wait, because anyway it's another problem, handicap for me if I play against 10 opponents. They already had 10 times more time than me. Why to wait until referee is in before him? And this is very, very important in the final calculation, how fast I'm making half move. Last participants plays with clock 5 minutes is the same rules like number 7 for performer is the rules number 9 for participants. Last participants play with clock 5 minutes for participants and 10 minutes for performer with sudden death rules. Now we are coming to referee obligation. Referee obligation, rules number 1. Inform performer or participants move and play performer's moves before each of participants. 2. Write score sheet of each game. 3. Controls and announce 30-second rules to participants and keep warnings on score sheets. 5. Counts performers' miscalculation and keep warnings on score sheets. 6. Collect contact information from participants. As I mentioned earlier, I want to know who they are, and I want all participants treated nicely as a human being, even if they don't have capacity to play on a such level chess. I just want to treat equally everybody. Thank you. Now we will pass quickly over the game. These 5 games. On the first board was Christopher Wazan, and I will just pass quickly to see the moves and actually how game finished. Just quick overview, and this is final position of the first board. On the first board, on second board was Zhu Andrew, and you can see the moves that are played. this is also final position on the second board. On the third board was Gardner Curry. And this is the final position in this game. On the fourth board was John Sullivan. And the game finished after the 14th move and I won. And here we can see actually final position. On the fifth board play Grenville Kaynor, and we will also move quickly through this game. As you can see, everything is part of the built-in. And as we can see, this is final position, and black is checkmate very nicely. Last move was knight e5, check and mate. Usually after each blindfold exhibition, on the end I have some little talk with participants, and this is collection